My sheep hear my voice. So you might see I got my red cap on today. I got a Manchester United t-shirt on. T-shirt, shirt, whatever, right? Football. Football. Well, you know Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park, yeah? Manchester United. You know, there was the there was the obviously there was that thing that happened at the Manchester Arena when Ariana Grande played there. She had a concert there, and there was a bomb attack, and that so that was actually just before Chester Bennington died. Actually, yeah. Because there's a video of him in concert in Birmingham, and he talked about it, and it was only about it was like 17. It wasn't long before he died. So yeah. Um, so I posted a link on my Facebook page of Linkin Park. You know the song called Numb. You know it's an interesting song. So from my perspective, because I'm God and the world mimics me, the world is constantly trying to be me. And the thing about Chester Bennington, well, he was never, he never said he was a religious guy at all. Um, he never ever spoke about God or Jesus. Really, he never said a thing. Um, there's nothing you can look at you can't look at what he said and be like, oh yeah, he was a Christian. You wouldn't. And basically, well, what was he doing really? But yeah. So, but the thing is that video, that music video, he filmed it in a church. I guess it was a Catholic church. Obviously there were lots of statues in there and all kinds of stuff. So I guess it was a cathedral or a Catholic church, whatever, right? And obviously, I'm not a fan of Catholicism. I'm not a fan of Catholics. Okay, I'm not really. Nah, because they're Mary worshippers for a start. But this is the thing, right? Because I'm God, and everyone is drawn to my light. Everyone wants to be me. Everyone wants to be in my light. You see, when Adam and Eve, what they did was that they ate the forbidden fruit, and they what they tried to do was well, this is the thing. Everyone tries to be a replica of me. They want to clone me. They try to copy who I am. But and obviously that's a magic thing, because if imagine, everyone trying to steal your identity all at the same time. It's not fun. Believe me, it's really not fun. Um, and so I was Jesus Christ. And I said, look, I want you to copy me in this way, right? So I basically said, I was Jesus Christ. And I said, this is how I need you to copy me, right? I want you to copy me the way that Jesus Christ is, right? So so basically, if you want to get to me, the Father, you have to go through Jesus Christ. And I gave people that path to follow. But the problem is that the people who don't follow that path, all they try to do is copy me. I'm the Father. They're trying to copy me all the time, and it leaves me with it makes me feel depleted. It makes me feel like I've got about 8 billion freaking. I feel like I've got all these parasites attached to me that are just trying to suck the blood out of me. Leeches. That's how I feel. But anyways, the song about Linkin Park, Numb. What does he say? He says, "Can't you see that you're smothering me? Um, afraid to let go, afraid of losing control, sort of thing." And um, and there's this girl, and she's an artist, right? She's like making all this art. She just constantly won't stop making art, right? And this is what the world does, right? Because the world is constantly making art which resembles me in some sense. And what it does is, art is used to trap my energy. So basically, all art reflects me in one way or another. It's like books and stories, and I'm magically connected to everything. And so, people who are godless people, they don't love me, they don't worship God, they don't follow Jesus Christ, but they love making lots of art. They like to make music and movies and television and all the news stories, all the world events that are always happening. How they name their children, the people that they hang out with, their names, the places that they're associated. Basically, people are just constantly drawn towards my light, and that can, but that, when I say that, I mean it's through magic, okay, through words, because I am the word, and my power is delivered through all words. But the fact is that so people are always trying to associate with me through words, not actually associate with me and be like, hey, I love you, I'm your friend, or whatever, but it's associating through me with magic, witchcraft, to acquire my power. But it's really interesting. So that video, Numb, so they're all in a church, and I don't know if you noticed. So Mike Shinoda, he plays on a piano, and it says Baldwin on it. I'll come back to that later, but I'll talk about that later. But Baldwin, right? But anyways, yeah, yeah, a lot of magic has been done against me to ruin my looks and all that kind of stuff as well. Yeah, that's what demons do to me. But anyways, he's so they're like in a church, right? And these people don't claim to be Christians or Catholics or anything. So what are they doing in a church? And then he's saying those words. Who's he pretending to be? You know what I mean? Like, it's you know what I mean? It's you see, people, like, he was always pretending to be like me, right? That's what people do. People mimic me. They walk around in the world thinking they're me when they're not me, right? So if I'm depressed, they get depressed. Yet they don't really understand why they're depressed. There are tons of people who get depressed. They wake up one day and they're like, I feel depressed. I don't know why. I need to see a doctor. A doctor will tell me why I'm depressed, and the doctor's like, well, take some medication then. And they're like, okay, I'll take some medication. And I know, the thing is, I've been depressed. I know why I've been depressed. Because I've been surrounded by abusive, backstabbing pieces of shit bastards and bitches my whole life. Yeah? Witches and wizards. Trying to steal trying to hurt me in so many different ways. That's why I've been depressed. And people try to ruin my life and think it's funny. Anyways. I made this. Where am I going with this? And that's the thing, I am numb. If you've seen how many things I've posted on Facebook since the beginning of 2022, right? So the beginning of the year 2022, 2022, 2022, yeah. I've posted so many things on Facebook. I couldn't even count. I mean, how do I count it? I know it's more. It's around. It's probably about 20,000 posts in that. How many years is that? That's one. That's like 3 years or something, right? I mean, yeah, yeah. So it's 3 years, 4 months, isn't it? Yeah. So I mean, it's. I'm totally numb from sitting in a chair. I've got a sore back. I've got, and this is the thing. I've been trying to get people to listen to me. So when I say, my sheep hear my voice, well, isn't this is the thing. The story with Limp Bizkit, with Fred Durst. Well, his he he was, that's the thing. And it's just the same with Chester Bennington as well. It's with these bands. They are they're like an extension of my voice because they clone me, right? They're like clones of me, and they steal my words, my thoughts, my feelings, and they put it out there, and people worship it or they hate it or whatever it is, right? So when I say my sheep hear my voice, well, they hear my voice through them, but they don't hear it directly from me though. It's well, that's the thing. Like, this is the thing. Anytime I try to tell people who I am, everyone wants to gate. All the demons want to gatekeep me. They want to be like, nope, we're not letting anyone else hear him. We're just gonna not tell anyone about him, and we're just gonna laugh our asses off at him, and just treat him like shit. Yeah, that's how people treat me. They want to keep me in a confined cage. They won't listen to me. They just well, they listen to me, but they don't actually acknowledge what it is that I say. Anyway, um, so I've been posting some other stuff on my Facebook. Okay, so there was where did I get to? So I got to Vince McMahon or McMahon or whatever his fucking name is, right? Um, so because Fred Durst, he was connected with wrestling because he had his song "Rollin'" was used as the Undertaker's entrance song, right? And I actually used to play as Fred when I was a kid. I used to play a game called SmackDown, and Fred Durst was an unlockable character in that game. Um, and I played as him in that game. And back then, I was a fan of Limp Bizkit. Okay. Um, I mean, that's the thing. I had a, when I had a difficult childhood with, my mom was an evil witch, and I had a lot of haters. And so when I heard Limp Bizkit, and that's the thing, I'm God. He's copying me. That's the thing. He's speaking his my thoughts and feelings are being reflected back at me. That's the thing. All I was really doing was looking at kind of like a mirror image of myself, in a sense. But that's what the world does because the world wants my light. But the fact is, what? And so how does the world shine? Well, what it does is it holds a mirror, right? It holds a mirror to me so that it reflects my light. And demons are like, oh, you must be the light then. You're the source of the light. You basically go to someone else, and everyone wants to pretend that I'm not the source. They treat me like I'm darkness. I'm nothing. I'm nobody. I'm nobody. No thing. Yeah. So, now that I've explained that, so there was the story about Vince McMahon. Okay, so he's the owner of he was the CEO of WWE, and when I was a little kid, I used to watch WWF a little bit, not a lot, but I watched a bit when I was a kid. When I for a couple of years when I had it on a TV at home, and Well, this is the thing. My name on my birth certificate is Grant Salvin, and obviously, for instance, I hold this up. This is Grant Salvin's lighter. Yeah, do you understand? Vince is kind of at the end of my name. The things that I own, right? Apostrophe S, or Grant Salvin is. I am Grant Salvin is. Yeah, I exist. Yeah, Grant Salvin's. Yeah, that can be apostrophized as well, right? So there you go. Vin or Vince is kind of at the end of my. It is at the end of my name. So, and the thing about so Vince McMahon, people think he's a real evil piece of shit, and well, he is. I mean, I posted some videos where he's been involved in all sorts of crazy stuff, and not to mention all the sexual things that he's been accused of, all the stories that are there. So there's actually a video. It's called "The Evils of Vince McMahon," and McMahon, right? However, it's McMahon, Vince McMahon. And there's a story. So at the end of the video, it's about 1 hour 50 minutes into the video, but it talks about a woman that he took advantage of called Ms. Grant. Yeah, her name was Ms. Janelle Grant. And basically, he passed her around like, he was acting like a pimp and treating her like a prostitute. And strangely enough, there's a part of it where basically there's he manages to get his crap in her hair. Yeah, I won't go into more detail than that. So, and that's the weird thing, right? Because crap, and well, that's the thing, some people might say I have crap hair, shit hair, right? I'm not totally bald, but I'm getting, I do shave my hair, but someone might say I have crap hair, right? Shit hair, right? Not that I care. I don't fucking care at all, really. But anyways, the fact is that because Vince McMahon, he did a thing with Donald Trump, right? And they had they signed contracts, and they had some fight between. They had two wrestlers fight each other for a bet that they had, and whoever lost it would get their head shaved, right? And so Vince McMahon, he gets his head shaved by Donald Trump. And what's really interesting? So the wrestlers who were wrestling on behalf of Vince McMahon and Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump had a wrestler from ECW, I think, called Bobby something. He was called Bob or Bobby. And then there was another, Vince McMahon's wrestler was called Umaga. Okay, the baseball cap that everyone walks around with. It says "Make America Great Again," and they call it MAGA, right? So Vince McMahon's wrestler, strangely enough, was called Umaga, which is spelled UMAGA, right? And he's like I think he's like a Samoan wrestler, and he's got tattoos all over his face, and he's got braided hair and whatever, right? And he's called Umaga. And in that, so when the two wrestlers fight each other, Bobby beats Umaga, right? And so that's how Trump wins against Vince McMahon, right? And so he shaves Vince McMahon's head, right? But this is the weird thing, right? Because it's that name Baldwin, okay, Baldwin. So and that's the thing, because because Vince McMahon loses that bet and they shave his head, so it's kind of like bold lose or bold win or whatever. You know what I mean? Depending how you look at it, but that Alec Baldwin, he does an impression. He used to do a sketch of on the show Saturday Night Live, and it was called He was pretending to be Donald Trump, and the actor's name, he's called Alec Baldwin. And the thing is, my uncle-in-law, he's called Donald, right? He was Abraham from the Book of Genesis. Okay, not that he doesn't believe it. He doesn't. He doesn't believe in that stuff. He doesn't believe in any of that. Nope, he doesn't. But the world reflects him. That's the thing, because I'm God, and anyone I ever close to, okay, so people in my family or people I associated with, friends, people I used to call friends, they get reflected by the world very strongly. And so, but this is the thing, the world wants to pretend that I don't exist. You see? Because all these demons that I was surrounded by, they don't love me. So they're just constantly just draining my energy. And the demons are using them, to control the world and to try to stop me from controlling the world. But that ain't gonna happen. That's. I don't lose. I'm God. I don't lose. But I'm trying to get people to listen to me. That's the thing, right? Because if no one in the world listens to me and everyone gets annihilated and everyone dies, well, that's not exactly, that's not a good thing, is it? I mean, would you like it that way? Is that what you want? I'd prefer it if people listened to me and actually did something that I asked. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just, listen to me for 5 minutes and then close off the fucking video and be like, yeah, listen to it. No, that's not what I'm asking for. I'm asking for you to listen to my video from start to finish, to actually do what I say. Yeah, understand that I'm God. Anyway. So it's really, going back to the Donald Trump thing, okay, so, and this is the thing, Donald Trump, he's been involved with all kinds of scandals, his taxes, and, people always making, they're always talking about his taxes, and on Saturday Night Live, on their sketches, they were making fun of Trump and his tax returns, right? He had, like, enormous piles of tax returns and stuff like that, right? And that's the thing, my uncle-in-law, Donald, he's an accountant. He deals with taxes. That was his job. He's retired now, but that's how he made a living. He was a tax man. And, and that's, so Donald Trump, he's been involved with, he talked about, with, how his, all the sort of stories, he's been accused by women and, the Stormy Daniels and stuff like that, and that's my uncle-in-law. Well, pornography is kind of, that's the thing, right? I would say he's an addict. He always was. I mean, I remember when I was a little boy and all the stuff I found in his house, right? Me and his sons and me, we found sackfuls of magazines. Yeah. As much as he wouldn't like to admit it. But anyway. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, where do I go with this? Do you know what I mean? See, it's important because in the book of Genesis, this is the thing that Abraham, right? He was considered by a lot of Israelites, they would say that they're children of Abraham, right? Abraham, they would go around saying, Abraham's my father. I'm a descendant of Abraham. Basically saying that Abraham is God. This is how, the demons, they want to pretend that Abraham is God, Father. Yeah? But that's the thing, I'm God. I'm the creator of Abraham. I'm the creator of everything and everybody. But demons don't like me. Yeah? Yeah, you see? You know what that is, yeah? Crucifix. Yeah, that's the problem. This world, it doesn't like me. It really doesn't like me. See, when I was Jesus Christ, it was a bit different. I mean, the thing is, I did what I did then, and I am who I am. Okay, I am who I am. You know, there's a lot of people who don't like it. A lot of people are bitter about the fact that I can do whatever I want. I don't have to. I don't have to get down on my knees and pray. I don't have to do any of that. I don't have to do any of that. Yeah, I'm God. Yeah, I don't have to do that. I'm in charge. I'm number one. That's how it always will be. You cannot stop that. No matter how much you hate me, I could live in a fucking cardboard box. I'm still God. Yeah, you can't stop me. The thing is, I'm terribly bored of having to explain who I am to people. You know, that's, you know, quite often I just want to go. You know, I just wish I didn't. I wish I could just vacate this body and just go somewhere else. Bye, world. Goodbye. Because this world is hostile, and I really don't have to. It's hostile towards me. And there's really no reason for me to be here, it feels like. Anyway. You see, things, you know, like Fred Durst and Chester Bennington. You see, it's like they're sort of an echo of my voice. That's the thing, right? People want to be an echo of my, you know, they want, in the way that they mimic me, they act, you know, some people, they act, you know, especially Fred Durst, I would say. He's a very, you know, and Chester Bennington. They're like an echo of my voice. But they're not me. I'm me. This is Grant Salvin's body. I am Grant Salvin's body. I am God. This is where I am the Spirit of God in here, this body. People don't want to know. And the thing is that if people actually paid attention to me, they should know by now. They should really know by now who I am. If they actually paid attention to all the stuff I post on Facebook, all the stuff I've said over the years, because the world, I affect everything in the world, and if you cannot see how I affect the world, well, you're totally blind. You're deaf and you're blind. You're totally useless to me. If you can't see it, the connection between, I'm not talking about my internet connection, I'm talking about how I connect with art and music and the news. Every day, the news. What's going on in the world. All the destruction, the war, the disease, the poverty, all that stuff. I'm connected with it all. Okay? And sometimes, you know, there are big stories that come out. You know, and look at all the airplanes that have been falling out of the sky. Yeah? If you go back and listen to my videos, you should definitely see that I've been talking about that before. I'm the reason they keep falling out of the sky. But you don't know it. You don't pay attention to me. That's why I get like, what? You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like anyone's watching my videos. Nobody cares. So, yeah. Anyway. I've explained this before, but you know, I've made it so that, you know, what I'm doing, you know the story of when God said to Moses, put a bronze serpent, make a serpent out of bronze and put it on a pole. And so the Israelites, if they get bit by a snake, they can look at the serpent on the pole. Okay? Well, essentially, that's what I am. You either pay attention to me or you don't. And if you ain't gonna listen to me, well, it's bad luck for you. It's very bad news for you. See, the problem is I'm not really afraid of dying. I'm really not. I'd rather people acknowledge me, and I could, I could spend some time on planet Earth, talking to people. But yeah, I often wonder, am I just gonna die, and then everyone's gonna find my videos after I'm dead, and they're all gonna be like, "Oh, he was good. We should have listened to him. Now he's gone, and everyone's getting destroyed, and everything's gone to shit." Maybe that's how it's gonna happen. I don't know, but whatever. Right? Things will happen the way they're meant to happen, right? So, there was that film, Gran Turismo. I posted about it on my Facebook, and yeah, if you scroll down a bit, it's there. But this is the thing, there's all these guys, or there's all these young guys, all these young people competing on the game Gran Turismo, right? Who's the number one Gran Turismo driver? Well, the thing is, I'm Grant. I'm the number one Grant. Yeah, that's who I am. But you got all these people that want to, all these young people. They want to make, they want to, they're chasing after the dream, aren't they? They all want to be the number one Gran Turismo player. Yeah. Yeah. Thing is, I used to watch Formula One. I used to watch it. I stopped watching it. Yeah, but there was a time when I used to watch Formula One driving. Ooh. I don't normally actually. The fact that I've got a football shirt on. Well, I don't actually normally wear. I don't normally watch football. I'm not a Manchester. Well, that's the thing. I'm not a Manchester United supporter. I just bought this because I wanted to wear it. That's it. That's the only reason why. I couldn't even tell you one thing. I couldn't even tell you one player who's on the fucking Manchester United team. I couldn't tell you. I have no fucking idea. I mean, I could tell you. Maybe I know Ryan Giggs. He was Manchester United, wasn't he? That's literally That's literally all I could tell you. That's literally all I know. That's it. I honestly don't give a shit about football. But anyway. But a lot of people who like it, yeah. Yeah, sure are. Yeah, there are. I was always shit at football anyway. I've had a few lucky kicks. Yeah, I've had a few lucky. Yeah, I mean, I used to enjoy it when I was a kid. When I was a little kid, but just a casual game of football between friends, maybe. But that's about it. And the fact is, I've grown up, and well, my life is, I live a very inactive life. I don't have an active lifestyle. I kind of wish I had had an active lifestyle. Could have kept in shape, could have. But the fact is I'm God, and the world treats me like shit, and it's been a horrible battle I've had to fight with this world, and it's left me sitting in a seat most of the time. But anyway, so I wanted to say about Fred Durst. He made a film, and it was called The Fanatic, and it's quite a fun. It's an interesting film. You see, it's making fun of me is what it is, because literally when I was at school, at boarding school, people used to make fun of me because I was a fan of Limp Bizkit. They used to hate on me for liking Limp Bizkit. And I mean, that's the thing, because back when I was a kid, for me it felt like it was a part of my identity, and that's the thing. I'm God. It's my reflection. That's the thing. But so the film, The Fanatic, is about there's this guy. He's played by John Travolta. Okay, the actor John Travolta, and he plays the fanatic. Okay, so basically he's a big fan of an actor, and he keeps harassing the actor. Basically, he goes to his house, and he breaks into his house because he wanted to get his signature or something like that. And it's supposed to be a comedy. It's supposed to be a comedy of this crazy fanatic guy who won't leave the actor alone, and the actor's like, "Go away, you fucking loser," sort of thing, right? And there's like some sort of fight, and at the end, the actor, he gets arrested by the police. It's a very bizarre film, okay? But the thing about John Travolta is that he always reminds me of my uncle-in-law. So my uncle-in-law, Donald Neal, he's married to my aunt, who's called Christine Neal, and so John Travolta always reminds me of my uncle-in-law, Donald. They sort of there's some sort of similarities in looks, I would say, and the way they behave and I've always, and that's the thing, my uncle-in-law, Donald, he was always a fan of John Travolta. I think he always idolized John Travolta, I think, because from all his old movies, things like, I don't know, Grease and whatever, right? Stuff like that, right? His old movies that he used to do. And that's the thing. But the name John Travolta, I thought to myself, so how does that connect with Donald? And I thought, well, actually, he's got a brother called John. That's the thing, right? And travel. Well, you know what travel means, yeah? If you travel to someone, right? So Donald is John Travel. That's the thing. That's who he is. He's John Travel. I guess I've travelled to John's as well. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? I mean, obviously, well, that's the thing, right? I mean, in that sense, I'm John Travel as well. I go to I've met people who were called John. I've had people I used to associate with called John, and not to mention people call the toilet John, don't they? So John Travel, yeah. That's me, but that's the thing, right? So there's a connection through those. It's a magic connection through words. They're magic words. It's a magic name. I mean, if you've seen the movie Swordfish, John Travolta's in that as well, and there's an actor in it. He's a cop He's like he's DEA, isn't he? Drug Enforcement Agency or whatever, right? I think he's I think they said DEA. But anyways, there's an actor in Swordfish, and he's called Don Glover. Is it? Oh no, wait, no. Is it Don Lemon? No, wait, no, not Don Lemon. Fucking hell. Although there is the news guy who's called Don Lemon. Is it Don Glover? Oh shit! Hang on. Wait, hang on. What the fuck? Oh, so that guy from Childish Gambino, he's called Donald Glover. You know, there's the actor who's in Lethal Weapon. He's called Danny Glover. You know, as in like Daniel Glover. Well, Donald is Donald Neal, right? So Da means dad, which is what he is. He's a dad, right? So Da Neal Glover. But then, so what's the name of the guy from Swordfish? Let me look. So IMDb Swordfish. So it's Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle. Okay, so there's a guy called Don in that film. Okay. And then so John Travolta, he plays Gabriel. So he's like the villain of the film, isn't he? And he's associated with that woman played by Halle Berry, and her name is Ginger. Okay, and the thing is, Donald Neal, my uncle-in-law, he's married to my aunt, who's called Christine Neal, and she's a redhead. Okay, she's a ginger. Yeah. And I mean, Hugh Jackman, he plays Stanley. Yeah, he types to the computer and then it says access granted. Yeah, when he hacks into the system. Yeah. You've heard of Hugh Grant. Yeah, Hugh Grant. Hugh Man. Yeah, I am Hugh Man. It's weird having to explain who I am. I mean, it's like my dead mom, her name was Fee. I'm male and she's Fee. I'm female. You understand? I mean, I don't belong to her. I'm God. But the fact was, I came out of a woman's body, yeah, her vagina, when I was born, yeah, and her name's Fee. And I was Fee's son. Fee, people would call me Fee's son. Yeah. And Donald would be like, "That's not my son. Grant's not my son." Yeah, he always used to, when I was a kid, he always used to tell people, he's like, "No, he's not my son. That's someone else's son." It's the way he said it it just seemed rude. Yeah. Imagine that. I'm God and he's Abraham, right? And so when when I'm a little boy and he's looking after me, or he's supposed to be looking after me, you know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean? And the way he talked about me and treated me, and he viewed me like I'm scum of the earth, or I'm just like a little menace, a little devil boy, basically, no good, not as great as his kids, sort of thing. And I'm God. Yeah, it doesn't look good for Abraham, does it? No. Nope. And look, he's obsessed with pornography, he's obsessed with money, he's obsessed with hating God and Jesus. But he likes Italian food. He wants to move to Italy. He wants to go live in Rome. Yeah, next to the Vatican probably. Maybe the Sistine Chapel or some shit. Whatever, all that shite. Yeah, I mean, he's got some weird obsessions in his life. And then, Donald Trump. Oh, let's not forget about Donald Trump. He wants to take over the world. He wants to put everyone into, he wants to put the tariffs. He wants to have an economic war with everybody now. You know, he basically just wants to destroy everything. You know what I mean? He's basically, that's the thing, that's all he's doing. You know, he's pulling the rug from underneath everybody's feet. But actually, well, it's me who's doing it. That's the thing. I'm the one who's causing it all. Because I'm not getting what I want. People won't give me what I want, so I'll take what I want. Yeah? I mean, you know, it's very much, you know how you see it in a film or something like that. You know, you'll see an actor, you know, like a guy with a gun, right? And you'll go to another guy and you'll say, "Give me what I want," and he puts his gun to his head. You know, it's that situation basically. I'm doing that to the world, and I'm like, I'm God. I'm the one with the power. I'm the one who can destroy all of you. I want what I want. You're gonna give it to me or not? Bang. Yeah? Because you're not giving me what I want. This is what I've been put. This is the situation that I've got to be in. You know, this is what the world does to me. You see, last time I was crucified. I actually died. This time, it's the other way around. Yeah, it's the other way around. So I tell you what I want, and if you don't give it to me, you die. It's fair though, isn't it? It is fair. After, you know, all things considered, right? All things considered. Yeah. That's called vengeance. I mean, that's the thing, you know, the world has got, there are quite a few people who, claim to be God or Jesus, you know, they claim to be the second coming. And, you know, the world has no problem with following after them and saying that they, you know, they'll talk about them, they'll put it on the news, they'll talk about it, and they'll get lots of worshippers, and, you know, they'll have their little cult going on and all that kind of stuff. But for me, no, nothing. Zilch. Yeah. I mean, I tell people who I am. I don't think it leaves my postcode. You know, it doesn't get beyond my postcode area, probably. That's about it. You know, it started off with people spying on me and be like, "Who's this guy? Let's check him out on social media." And, "Oh, look, he's a total nut job. Oh, let's all," you know. And then it started like that. You know, that's what happens with me. People in the local area, they start trying to figure out who I am, and then people start going, "Fucking hell, this guy's fucking. Look at all the shit he's saying. Look at all the things he's posting. Who the fuck is this guy? Who does he think he is?" Yeah, and then they gatekeep, and they're like, "No, we're not going to tell anyone else about it." We don't believe. Yeah, to them, they just look at me as I'm like the local circus man, the local clown. That's about it. That's how they see me. Yet when the world gets destroyed, they don't notice it. They're just like, "Oh well, that's got nothing to do with it." You know, it's easy. That's the thing, right? You look at all the bad stuff that happens in the world, and people say, "Yeah, but did God do that?" Or, you know, "Why is God doing this?" And then people go, "Oh, but God didn't do that," or "God did do that," or people don't seem to know. That's the thing, right? But this is the thing. I'm God, and all the bad stuff that happens in the world, all the stuff that's happening in the world, well, I'm connected with everything. That's the thing. I'm connected with everything. Um, I've explained a lot of it. And that's the thing. I try to keep explaining stuff as I go along, and wow, what a chore it is. It is a serious chore. And don't you think it's strange, right? So, obviously there was the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. So, there was that happened, and also, what happened to Alec Baldwin? Well, Alec Baldwin, he was involved in a shooting thing as well, right? They were both so, there were these both serious shooting incidents that so Donald Trump and Alec Baldwin were both in serious shooting incidents, obviously, but the difference was that Donald Trump got shot at, and Alec Baldwin, he shot a gun and he actually killed a woman by accident, right? Apparently. Yeah. Strange coincidences, huh? See, people don't see the connection at all. They don't recognize it. And you think about how many people have said about Donald Trump, they try to make out that he's wearing a wig or a toupee, right? They'll invite him on TV and they'll ruffle his hair to see if he's actually bald or he's wearing a toupee or something, right? It's like, do you really have hair under there? And stuff like that. I mean, that's the thing about Alec Baldwin. The Baldwin family. Well, they're not bold people, are they? Do you know what I mean? You look at all the men in the Baldwin family who are actors. They've all got hair. Everyone that I've seen, anyway. I mean, there's Alec Baldwin, and there's the other guy. I can't remember what his name is. Robert Baldwin. I think there's Robert Baldwin. He's in like really shit films, basically. You can get there's quite a lot of free films on YouTube, and he's in some of those. I'm trying to think what they're called. I think there's one called Dark Storm, and there's one called Earth Storm. Those are two that he's in. But these are guys who are called Baldwin, but they're not bold. But the difference is, I am going bold. I used to have nice hair. And then when I was about 20, I don't know, about 28, 29, I started getting it started going on the sides a bit, and it was a bit depressing at first, and I just shaved my head, and I guess it's slowly fading. Every year it's just sort of just getting a little bit thinner on top. But it's the least of my worries. It really is. It is. I mean, the reason I'm wearing this hat is because, well, that's the thing. I am Redcap. He's Fred Durst. People used to call him Redcap. Well, I'm Redcap. I'm God. I used to wear this when I was a kid. I used to wear, well, not this particular hat, but I had another New York Yankees hat, a red one, when I was a kid. I think I lost it, yeah, I don't know what happened to it, but I might still have it. I actually had the artwork for the album cover, which is for the album Significant Other, it's graffiti, right? Graffiti. That's the thing. I'm Grant, and my mom was called Fee. Yeah, it's a graffiti. Yeah, I'm connect. She wants to try to steal my light. That's the thing, right? I mean, when I lived in Brighton, where I used to live with my mom years and years and years ago, um, well, I lived there. I lived there a lot longer than she did, but there was there's graffiti all around Brighton, and it's done by there's a record shop, and it's called Rare Kind. and they've got graffiti artists there. Okay, and so all this art, all this art that's all around Brighton, a lot of it is done by Rare Kind. Well, who's Rare Kind? Let's think. I'm God, right? There's no more. You couldn't be more rare than me. I'm God. That's the thing. Who's Rare Kind then? Well, it's me. And that's the thing, the art that they used to do around Brighton used to resemble me. It used to be, I used to play Street Fighter, and I'd see Street Fighter graffiti of characters that I would play, and at the end of my street there used to be a big graffiti. It was literally at the end of my street, at the end of Albion Street, where I used to live, and there was an alien in a suit smoking cigarette. He had a cigarette in his hand, and he had a frown. He looked like this, He had a big frown on his face, and he had a cigarette in his hand. When I looked at it, I remember I used to stand in front of it, and I just think, to me, I could see, I felt like it was reflecting me. I had this weird feeling like it was reflecting me, like I had this feeling in me, like I was looking at myself. But back then, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know that I'm God. I know now. But that's the thing, right? That's how people try to steal my power. They try to put a mirror in front of me and they say, but that's my mirror. They want to take my, they're trying to absorb my power through their artwork. That's what the world does. I'll give you another example. You've seen the movie The Passion of the Christ, yeah, and Jesus is played by Jim Caviezel, whatever his fuck. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's Jim Caviezel. Well, Jim means James, doesn't it? Yeah, and you know what? There are a lot of people in the world who seem to think King James' version of the Bible is the only one you should read. All the others are fake. They're no good. That's the thing. You got all these people who call themselves King James onlyists, and then the biggest film about Jesus Christ is the film where Jim Caviezel plays Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's not an accident. That's not an accident that his name's James or Jim, whatever. Jim is another way of saying James. See, the thing is, I'm God, and there are a lot of there are fakers who are pretending they're me. And so when I say, my sheep hear my voice, well, the thing is that they're listening to echoes. There are clones who echo my voice. And so the thing is that they've all been, where are my sheep then? Where have they gone? They're with other people. They're listening to other people. They're not listening to me. They're listening to other people. So then, are they my sheep? If they were really my sheep, wouldn't they listen to me? Wouldn't people hear my voice? If I'm your father, then why don't you fucking listen to me? Why don't you acknowledge what I'm saying? what the hell am I supposed to do? Unless, you know what I mean? Like, it's awful being me. It really is. And the annoying thing is that my uncle-in-law, Donald, it just seems like I've been doing this for years. And I know he occasionally spies on me. I'm not stupid. You know, he knows what I've said. He knows, well, he's aware of what I'm saying. He's aware that I say I'm God. And he doesn't care. He doesn't want to acknowledge me. He doesn't want to acknowledge what I say. You know, he basically, you know, he's a wanker, is what he is. He's a wanker. A porn obsessed wanker trying to take over the world. And people love him. Yeah, the world wants that. The demons love that. They're like, go on then, don't have another wank. I mean, the crazy thing is that everyone, you know, I'm denied and rejected by almost everybody, and the world, you know, they want to replace me with shit, crap, trash. And, you know, they're giving them, you know, death and destruction is all that awaits them. That's it. That's all they get. And they could have it good with me. That's the thing. Like, people could have had it good with me if they just shown me love in the first place. Do you know what I mean? That's all they had to do. All I need to know is that, can I trust you? Do you love me? And do I love you? And, you know, if that's all true, if I do, you know, if I love you and you love me, you know, you know what I mean? That's the thing. But that's the thing. Almost everybody, I cannot trust a single, you know, I can't trust anybody. Most people I cannot trust. The world is my enemy. It always has been, and it always wants to be that way. And that's the thing, you know, rather than submit to me, people want to submit to and worship false people, people who are fakers, people who are liars. mean, when I look at someone like Chester Bennington, you know, so he did that song Numb, right? You know, he's saying, I want to be more like me and less like you. Well, it's very ironic that, I mean, the thing is that, you know, people like him or people like Fred Durst, for example, okay? So Fred Durst, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, that's the thing. People, the world that doesn't love me, well, this is the thing. These type of people, like Fred, for instance, Fred Durst, okay? So it's like there's no one there. It's like his, it's like there's nothing there. There's nothing inside of him. Everything that he says and everything he says and everything he does, it, you know, it's him being trying to be me. It's like he has no identity. I mean, this is the thing, right? I look at these people who are, they're constantly trying to mimic and clone me, you know, and I'd look at them and I just think like they have no, you know, they have no self identity. That's the thing. They have no, and the whole point was with, well, I was Jesus Christ, right? And you're supposed to, you know, that's the whole idea of Jesus Christ, is that your identity becomes Jesus Christ. You become like Jesus Christ. You know, you become part of of Christ's body. Yeah, so you know Jesus is the head of the church. But the thing is that you know there are a lot of Christians. They don't know. They you know they follow false. You know they don't. You know there are a lot of fake Jesuses, right? There are a lot of fake ones. There are false Christs that people follow. Everyone's been tested. And that's the other thing. So I was talking about that film Gran Turismo, and that woman is in it. So she was called Jerry Halliwell. She was from the Spice Girls. She's now married to Christian Horner, who's the team owner of, or he's you know he's yeah I think he is the team owner of Red Bull for Formula One. Um, and so I mean that's the thing, right? So her surname is, or it was, Halliwell. Well, you know what hallelujah means, right? So um, she's a witch. When I was a little boy, okay, when I was a little boy, when I used to hang, when I used to hang around at my aunt and uncle-in-law's house, Christine and Donald, with their sons, Andrew and Philip. There was a guy, there was a teenager who used to live across the road. His name was Christopher. And he used to spend time with us. He used to play computer games with us. We were just little boys, like, you know, 5, 6, 7 years old, sort of thing. And he would look after us and take us for walks in the park and whatever, right? We'd play football and hockey Ooh, we play football, we play hockey. Ooh, excuse me. And he once bought us a present. He bought us Spice Girl sticker books. So you know how kids they like back when I was a kid, sticker books were quite a thing. So kids would buy a booklet, and then you'd buy there'll be all these packs of stickers you could buy, and then you'd have to put all the stickers in the book. And so he bought. I mean, I never used to buy those. I think a lot of boys used to get football sticker books and stuff like that, but I got a Spice Girls one. And so I had a Spice Girls sticker book. I don't know if I ever completed it or not, but when I was a little boy, I had the Spice Girls album. I had a Britney Spears album next to my Limp Bizkit album, which is quite funny, really, isn't it? Because Fred Durst, he actually, it said he apparently he did get with Britney Spears, and he called her a bitch, right? He hated her, right? I mean, that's the thing, right? Obviously being a young little boy, I looked at Britney Spears and I thought, wow, she's a pretty woman. I want to hear what she has to say for herself. Just getting to know these, that's the thing. I was just getting to know, you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, obviously I wouldn't buy that shit anymore, but when I was a little boy, that's, yeah. Do you know what I mean? I was a little boy. She shaved her head, didn't she? Yeah, she did. She was a baldy once upon a time. Yeah, that's true. Remember that song she made? Toxic? Oh, something fell over in my kitchen. Toxic. Yeah, well, toxic. Well, I guess, I put a lot of chemicals in my body, and I definitely don't have the healthiest lifestyle, yeah. So does that make me toxic? Am I the toxic male? I guess I am. Cheers. Well, I stopped drinking alcohol, but I used to be an alcoholic and a druggie. But that's the thing. I stopped being friends with people, so that's what happened. Really, that's how I escaped all of that, because I decided I hated everybody, and I didn't want to be associated with anybody. Yeah, I was just like, got rid of everyone, basically. Yeah. People that I used to associate with, I stopped associating with everybody, and then I stopped drinking as well. I began to realize the reason I was drinking and doing drugs was because I couldn't stand to be around the people that I was around all the time. That's really, being around them, the only way I could be around them was being a drunk. That was it. Staying away from them was the best thing I fucking did. So, I don't really know what else to say for this video. I've become so numb. I look at a world that mimics me, and I wish I could stop the world mimicking me. I wish I could I wish I could cut everyone off. I wish I could. That's really what I want to do. I want those who love me through Jesus Christ are with me. They are my children. Anyone else, though, everyone else, I want them to be completely separated from me in every way. I don't want them drawing on my power. I don't want them to have anything to do with me. I totally reject them.